Hey, She Slayers, this is a special sample cut from this week's episode. If you find this interesting, be sure to make time to go listen to the entire episode released this past Sunday. And please be sure to help a girl out and follow or subscribe to this podcast. The question is do you think like maybe you could have gone home and just like obsessed about tweets from your own house, but you still would have been working. But like, could you imagine getting to the level of success you've gotten to without the hustle era?
I would say yes. However,
Okay.
I would still have to have hustled. Here's where I went wrong. And by the way, for those that are newer in business, not even practice, right? Like anybody in business could value from this conversation. And I'll tell you why. Is like I'm in chapter 15 right now. If
Mhm.
you're a new grad, you're in chapter 1. You are not comparing your chapter 1 to my chapter 15. And if you are, that's going to be a big mistake on your part because you can't do that, of course, right? But I think when I was early on, it was more so about I wasn't good at time management, right?
Okay.
And the key was I wasn't present. So I may be at like a marketing event, and I'm really not like understanding how to maximize this marketing event because I'm also trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good friend, and really just being where your feet are. Like that's one of like the lines I live my life by, and I teach my kids is like be where your feet are. Like when you're at dinner with your family, you're dinner with your family. When you're in school, you're in school. There's literally nowhere else you can go while you're in school. When you're on the baseball field, you're on the baseball field. Like if you're always where your feet are at, life actually can be a little bit easier. But to early on, if you're in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 in any business, you got to hustle
Yes,
and you got to grind.
there's no shortcut. And like I feel like right now there's so much on social media. I mean, not from the Gary V's, not from the Hermosis, not from those people, but like there's these like, and I don't know their life, so I shouldn't call them fake coaches, like business coaches. But like it's so easy to sell like, "Oh, you're not successful because you're not working or you're working too much." It's kind of like you're doing it wrong. If you feel like you're having to hustle in the beginning, you're doing something wrong. Like that's the underlying thread that I feel like so many new startups are being fed. And so they feel like they're like, I'm working like 60 plus hours a week. And this is hard and I am grinding. What am I doing wrong? But like if you're a coach selling a lifestyle, then it's like, well, come tell me, I'll pay me and I will tell you like how you can accomplish so much more working 10 hours a week.
But that coach, what I would ask that coach is just being obviously a 3 Enneagram, but also somebody who would ask a lot of questions, always asking a lot of questions would be, well, what did you do in your chapter 1 and your chapter 2? Like, don't tell me how you're living your life now. I want to know, like, what did you do when you first started? Because to me, like, that is the ultimate testament. It'd be like chiropractors, and you hear this all the time. I'll get patients come in and they'll say, oh, yeah, my chiropractor had me just come twice a year. I was like, did you ever ask the chiropractor how often they get adjusted? Because I bet you it's once a week or every other week. So they're telling somebody something that like they want to be fed because the chiropractors are probably a poverty mindset and they want to be liked. So they tell the patient like, just come in a couple times a year. We'll take good care of you rather than telling them what the patient actually needs. Because maybe they feel like they're going to be a salesperson or they feel like they're overdue, like asking for too much money or like whatever it is. But I'm very like, and one thing you'll learn about me is the people who I look up to and my mentors, for example, and coaches are people who are doing it, right? Like I could tell anybody how to have a good marriage. Hey, Lauren, just do date nights, go on these travels like once a quarter, do all these things. If I'm not doing it, it's very easy to tell somebody what to do, right?
Mhm.
But to your point, you got to grind. You got to grind. You got to hustle, and you got to get uncomfortable, right? If you're not tired in your first 3 years in business, I don't think you're going to make your potential amount of income. Like I was tired, I was uncomfortable. I
You got
walked.
that new girl energy. You got to do it then. Because if you don't have the
Yes.
energy in those first 3 years, there's no way you're getting it 10 years in. Like it's not
No
happening.
chance. I walked. So ready for this? When I first started, I walked. There's a road in Atlanta called Peachtree Road. Okay, I walked up and down that street for it was 14 days straight, and I wanted to meet 1,000 people. And what I would do is I'd walk into a business. So I'd walk into your business, say, "Hey, I'm Dr. Austin. I'm thinking about opening up a chiropractic office down the street. Would you say one, this is a health conscious community?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, I think so." Great. Are there any doctors in the community you think that are good people I should connect with or refer to that maybe aren't so pushing pills, but they're maybe more focused on preventative healthcare? And they'd be like, I really don't. I said, you know what? I've really thought about this and I think I can be that for this community. I'm having an open house in 6 months. I'd love to invite you if you're interested in coming. And they'd be like, absolutely. And I get their email address, by the way. And Lauren, I did that for 1,000 people. But by the way, for those that are listening are thinking that was easy for him, right? It's very easy for us to portray like our beliefs on other people.
Mhm.
It wasn't easy for me, actually. It was very uncomfortable. And my hands were shaking when I would walk into businesses. I was extremely nervous. And I remember times where I would be like, I don't want to walk into the Wells Fargo, man. What are they going to think about me? I mean, there's a lot of people in there. It's kind of a big office. And that's when I had to get out of my head and just do what was uncomfortable. And for those that are listening, it's like, if your coach is keeping you comfortable and in a warm zone, that's scary. Like, I don't know how you're going to grow. That's why I love when people do endurance races, because you got to get uncomfortable doing an endurance race. It's a challenge. It's going to push you harder. You're going to grow from it. Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm laughing internally because I have heard new docs come to be like, well, my new coach said I don't need to work on the weekends and do screenings. Like, well, your new coach doesn't like money.
Screenings are old. And it's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. They freaking work.